understanding closing costs. So what are charges in addition to the down payment that a buyer can expect to have to pay?
So ultimately what I tell people is there's 3 pieces of money that people need to have when they're buying a home. There's 3, and they can write these down. Number 1 is the down payment. The down payment is FHA's 3.5. Conventional, you can go 3%, 5%, 10%. So that's the down payment, number 1. Number 2 are closing costs. Closing costs are lender fees, title fees, surveys, recording fee of the county. Those are closing costs. Those are the fees required to close the loan. Loan doesn't close, you don't buy the house, you're not charged any of that. Lastly, there are what are called prepaid items. That's your home inspection, that's your home appraisal, and you typically have to prepay for 1 year of homeowner's insurance. I break those down into down payment, closing cost, prepaid items. So it's 3 separate sets of fees that you want to pay attention to. I always tell people, Sophie, that I always tell people put a star by the closing cost. The seller, you as the agent, of course, and you do a great job of this, can negotiate with the seller to cover the buyer's closing cost. Thereby, it only leaves the buyer with the down payment and the prepaid items. So those could be minimized in that way. Even some of the prepaid items could be put onto a credit card. Now, when people hear me say charged on a credit card, a lot of people are, oh my God, that's terrible. Not necessarily. If you're managing your debt and you're budgeted, it's not bad to charge the home inspection or the home appraisal or the homeowner's insurance on your credit card. You can get it down to literally the buyer only needs to come up with the down payment. Seller covers the closing cost. The prepaid items could be charged. There's ways to minimize those numbers, but that's the total amount of money people need when they're looking at that.
So I know when I write contracts for my clients, I will say that the seller will pay up to a certain amount of money of the buyer's closing cost, prepays, points. What is the maximum percentage that a seller can pay towards a buyer's closing cost?
So ultimately, for example, for FHA, a seller's allowed to pay up to 6% of the purchase price towards the closing cost. For VA, a seller's allowed to pay 4% is generally the number looked at. If it's more than 4%, it just depends on the market you're in if it's allowable. And the truth is it's more than likely allowable, but 4% is a guide for VA. For conventional loans, if you put less than 10% down, the buyer does, the seller can only pay up to 3% of the purchase price towards closing cost. If the buyer puts more than 10% down, then the seller can pay up to 6% towards the buyer's closing cost.
Okay, I did not know that difference.
And USDA, the seller can cover up to 6%. USDA allows you to actually roll the fees into the loan. It's the only loan type that you can actually roll the closing cost back on top of the loan. The house has to appraise for more accordingly, but that's the only one that does that.
So for a $100,000 house, you've got 6% closing costs. The house would have to appraise for $106,000.
Yes, absolutely, yes.
Okay, and how many of these closing fees are non-refundable?
That's a great question. How many of the closing fees are non-refundable? The only fees that are non-refundable are the home inspection and the home appraisal.
Oh, good. Okay. And then you said that they are not charged a closing cost, the other ones, if the loan doesn't close.
The loan does not close. You are not charged lender fees, title fees, recording of the county, survey. You're not charged any of that stuff.